The arrangement: I married Serena Vance, the billionaire CEO with a heart of ice. She had a one who got away, a ghost from her past. I knew about him, or so I thought. I didn't care. When that ghost finally returned to the States, she asked us to meet at a restaurant downtown. The door swung open, and a woman in a provocative red dress walked in. She had sharp, exquisite features and a figure that demanded attention. She didn't even glance at my wife. Instead, her eyes locked onto mine, and her red lips curled into a smirk. "Serena, your husband is a catch. He's gorgeous." She tilted her head. "Give him to me, will you?" Serena and I had been married for 3 years. She provided the paycheck. I provided the presents. My primary job was to be her husband in name only, a shield to fend off her high society family members who were constantly pressuring her to settle down. We lived separate lives. She took the second floor. I stayed on the first. Outside of mandatory social functions, we barely spoke. I knew there was someone else in her heart. Someone she called Q, an artist she'd known since they were kids. In the bottom drawer of her office desk, tucked under a pile of files, was a photograph with worn edges. It showed 2 girls in private school uniforms. Serena looked stony-faced, while the girl next to her, the mysterious Q, had her arm draped over Serena's shoulder, flashing a brilliant, toothy grin. I wasn't the type to snoop. I'd stumbled upon it once while looking for printer paper. When Serena caught me, her face went so dark it looked like a storm cloud. She snatched the photo, locked it in a safe, and threw a single line at me. "Ethan Grant, don't touch things that don't belong to you." Fine by me. Our contract had 1 year left. As long as the direct deposits cleared, I was happy to play the role of the silent groom. But today, she did something unprecedented. She knocked on my bedroom door. When I opened it, she was standing there in a black satin slip dress that made her skin look like polished marble. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes were darting around, unsettled. "Come out to dinner with me tonight." "A family event?" I asked, falling into my routine. "What's the dress code?" "The usual rules." "No," she hesitated. "Q is back. She wants to meet you." The hand I was using to towel dry my hair paused. So, the one who got away was back and wanted to inspect the replacement. Understood. Time and place. 7 o'clock. The Skydeck Lounge. She turned to leave, then stopped. "We're something formal." "I'm always formal," I replied. She didn't answer. The click of her stilettos faded down the hallway. I closed the door and tossed the towel over a chair. If we're meeting, we're meeting. It wasn't like she was going to eat me alive. At 6:50 p.m., I was behind the wheel with Serena in the passenger seat. She was silent the whole way, her fingers unconsciously picking at the edge of the leather seat, leaving faint white marks. At a red light, I couldn't help myself. "Nervous?" She pulled her hand back as if she'd been burned and gave me a frigid look. "Just drive." Phoenix. The Skydeck Lounge was on the top floor of a skyscraper, featuring a 360-degree glass view of the city. It was the kind of place where you couldn't get a table without a 6-month wait or a certain last name. The hostess led us to a reserved booth by the window. Someone was already sitting there, back to us. She was tall, with a mane of dark, wavy hair cascading down her back. She wore a backless red silk dress, her neck and shoulders sculpted like a piece of fine art. Serena's pace faltered for a fraction of a second. The woman seemed to hear us. She turned around. Her face was stunning. Sharp, deep-set eyes, a high bridge to her nose, and full, painted lips. Her skin was a pale, cool tone that glowed under the restaurant's warm amber lights. She was beautiful in an aggressive, unforgettable way. But her gaze made me uneasy. Her eyes flicked to Serena for less than half a second before sliding away. Then they locked onto me. She scanned me from head to toe, like she was appraising a luxury car, a playful, unabashed smile tugging at her mouth. She stood up. The red dress clung to every curve. As she walked toward us, the high slit in her skirt revealed legs that seemed to go on forever. She carried a scent that was subtle, like crushed green stems after a rainstorm, mixed with something sweet I couldn't quite name. "Serena, it's been a long time." Her voice was low and slightly husky, the kind of sound that felt like it was vibrating against your skin. But she wasn't looking at Serena. She was still staring at me. Serena's voice sounded brittle. "Quinn, this is Ethan Grant." She turned to me. "Ethan, this is Quinn Thorne." So Q was Quinn Thorne. I extended my hand. "Ms. Thorne, a pleasure to meet you." Quinn smiled. She didn't take my hand. Instead, she stepped forward, reaching out to lightly brush the top button of my dress shirt with her fingertip. Her cold nail grazed my Adam's apple. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I instinctively leaned back. "Serena Vance," Quinn said, finally turning her gaze toward my legal wife. Her lips curled into a breathtaking arc, but the words that came out made my brain short-circuit. Your husband is a catch. Give him to me, will you? The restaurant's background music was a soft, sophisticated jazz, but all I could hear were Quinn's words, dripping with amusement, echoing through the air. Give him to me. My first thought was, is this woman insane? My second thought was to look at Serena. She turned pale, then her face hardened, her brow furrowed, her voice tight with suppressed anger. Quinn, what the hell are you talking about? Quinn shrugged with an effortless, nonchalant grace. Just a joke, Serena. You were always too easy to wind up. She finally withdrew her lingering gaze from me and pulled out the chair next to Serena, sitting down. She tapped the empty seat on her other side. Mr. Grant, don't just stand there. Seat. I looked at Serena. She gave a nearly imperceptible nod. I sat where Quinn indicated. At this angle, the scent of rain-soaked grass and sugar was even stronger. When the waiter came to take our order, Serena pushed the menu toward Quinn. Quinn didn't hesitate. She ordered a string of expensive dishes with practiced ease, then looked up at me. Any dietary restrictions, Ethan? None. Then that'll be all. She handed the menu back, propped her chin on her hand, and turned her face to look at me again. So, Ethan, what do you do? I run a small boutique studio. Independent design work. I answered concisely. An artist. Her tone ticked upward. Just making a living. It's a waste to just make a living with a face like that, she laughed. Serena is a lucky woman. Serena took a sip of water and said nothing. Are you back for good, Ms. Thorne? Or just visiting? I asked, trying to shift the focus. Depends. Quinn leaned slightly toward me. One of the thin straps of her dress slipped off her shoulder, but she didn't seem to care. If I find someone or something that really catches my interest, I might just stay. She kept her eyes on me as she spoke. Her gaze was so direct it made my skin crawl. It wasn't shyness or even attraction. It was something more primal. The look of a child who had just found a shiny new toy and was itching to take it apart. The food arrived quickly. Quinn was a master of conversation. She could talk about anything, global politics, fashion, even Formula One. She was worldly and sharp. But somehow, every topic circled back to me. You have long fingers, Ethan. You look like you should play the piano. You have a very striking profile, Ethan. You even eat elegantly, Ethan. Serena became increasingly silent, mechanically cutting her steak. The sound of her fork hitting the porcelain plate was the only sign of her frustration. I finally reached my limit. I set my silverware down and wiped my mouth with a napkin. Ms. Thorne. Yes. Quinn arched an eyebrow. I am Serena's husband. I looked her in the eye, keeping my voice steady. Your jokes are crossing a line. Quinn blinked, then her smile widened. The amusement in her eyes was practically overflowing. Husband, she repeated slowly. Then she turned to Serena. Serena, are you two very much in love? Serena stopped cutting her steak. The air in the booth seemed to solidify. Deeply, Serena said, her voice flat. Not that it's any of your business. Quinn nodded, not pushing further. She picked up her wine glass and swirled the red liquid. Good to hear, but her expression clearly said, I don't believe a word of it. The meal was an exercise in indigestion. When it finally ended, Quinn called for her car, a flash of a red Lamborghini. She walked to the driver's side, then turned back, approaching Serena. Serena, I'm back. And I'm not leaving. Serena stayed silent. Quinn leaned in close, almost brushing Serena's ear. She spoke in a whisper, but loud enough for me to hear. I've never failed to get what I want. You know that. She stepped back, her gaze jumping over Serena to land on my face. Her red lips silently mouthed two words. I caught them clearly. She said, just wait. The red supercar roared as it merged into the midnight traffic. The contract, I stood next to Serena. The night wind carried the first chill of autumn. Is she always like that? I asked. Serena was silent for a long time, so long I thought she wouldn't answer. She didn't used to be, she said softly, her voice carrying a weariness I didn't understand. She turned and headed for the parking garage. I caught up and opened the passenger door for her. She climbed in and buckled her seatbelt without looking at me once. As the car pulled out of the garage and into the neon glow of the city, the lingering scent of Quinn, that rain-slicked grass and sugar, seemed to haunt the cabin. Ethan, Serena said suddenly. Yeah. Stay away from her. I gripped the steering wheel, watching the taillights ahead. I'm your husband on paper, Serena. I let out a dry chuckle. Maybe you should be telling her that. Serena went silent again. We didn't speak for the rest of the drive home. She was out of the car before I could even park. Her heels clicked sharply against the pavement as she vanished into the house. I sat in the car for a minute before killing the engine. Inside, I found her standing in the middle of the living room, her back to me. I'm adding a clause to the contract, she said, her voice cold. Go ahead. Regardless of what Quinn Thorne says or does to you, you're not to respond. You are not to go near her, and you are strictly forbidden from. She paused, as if the words were difficult to say. Any unnecessary contact, any violation will be considered a breach of contract. I walked up to her. Her face was a mask, but deep in her eyes, I saw a flicker of panic. Serena, I said. Her eyelashes fluttered. Are you worried about me? I asked. Or are you worried about something else? She snapped her head up to glare at me, but the tips of her ears were turning red. I just don't want any complications. During the term of this contract, you are my husband. I will not have rumors affecting my reputation or the company's image. Her voice was high, her words fast. Classic bluster. I nodded. Understood. I'll stick to the deal. Don't worry. I walked past her to my room on the first floor. Closing the door, I tossed my suit jacket aside and loosened my tie. My mind was still stuck on Quinn's gaze and that silent just wait. What mess. I took a shower and lay in bed scrolling through my phone, but I couldn't focus. Around midnight, the screen lit up with a notification. A new follow request on Instagram. The profile picture was a blurry red light. The handle was just one letter. The message request attached said, Mr. Grant, you smell like my perfume. It's a good look on you. I stared at the screen, a chill running down my spine. When had she been close enough for her scent to rub off on me? I remembered her finger on my button, the way she leaned in when she spoke, and that unshakable scent from the restaurant. My thumb hovered over the screen. Accept or ignore. After a few seconds, I hit ignore. I tossed the phone onto the nightstand, killed the lights, and tried to sleep. But in the darkness, the words felt burned into my retinas. You smell like my perfume. The next morning, I was jarred awake by a phone call. My business partner, Joel, had a voice loud enough to peel paint. Ethan, man, you gotta help me. Emergency. I rubbed my temples. Speak English, Joel. The client for that big urban redevelopment project? The unpleasable one? They're coming in early to hear the pitch. Lee is out of town, and I can't handle this solo. They specifically asked for the lead designer. You're my only hope. I checked the time. 8 a.m. Send me the address. I'll be there in an hour. I scrambled to get ready. As I left, I glanced at the stairs. The second floor was quiet. Serena had likely left for the office hours ago. I drove to the creative district and found Joel pacing outside the office like a cat on a hot tin roof. Ethan, he shouted, rushing over. Thank God. It's weird in there. What's weird? The client rep, Joel whispered. She looks like a movie star, but has the aura of a warlord. Our usual contact person is acting like a frightened puppy next to her. My heart sank. No, it couldn't be. I pushed open the conference room door. Several people were seated around the long, oval table. At the head of the table, a woman sat with her back to us, studying the projection on the wall. She wore a sharp, dark red power suit. Her hair was pulled back into a sleek, low bun, revealing the elegant line of her neck. Even from behind, she was unmistakable. Joel let out a tiny gasp. That's her, he whispered. As if she'd heard us, she turned around. Exquisite eyes, red lips curled into a smirk. Quinn Thorne. She looked at me without a hint of surprise, as if she'd known I'd be here all along. She arched an eyebrow. Mr. Grant, we meet again. Her voice was slightly raspy, like she'd just woken up. It seems we're destined to cross paths. I suppressed my irritation and forced a professional smile. Ms. Thorne, I didn't realize you were the client representative. I just moved back. My family gave me a consultant title to keep me busy. She gestured to the empty seat next to her. Seat, I'm on a tight schedule, so let's get started. I sat where she pointed. Joel and I opened our laptops and started the presentation. Throughout the pitch, Quinn was focused. She interrupted with sharp, insightful questions that cut straight to the core of the design. But at least a third of the time, her eyes weren't on the screen. They were on my face. That feeling of being appraised like a piece of merchandise returned. I tried to ignore it and focused on the work. And so, our goal is to create an immersive narrative space where local history meets modern aesthetics. The pitch ended. I closed my summary. The room went silent, save for the hum of the air conditioner. The project managers held their breath, waiting for her reaction. The concept is solid, she finally said, leaning back. Her gaze swept over Joel and then settled on me. But what about the execution? Budget, timeline, and... She paused. As the lead designer, can you guarantee you'll be on this from start to finish? I don't like it when people swap team members midstream. Joel jumped in immediately. Absolutely. Ethan is our core. He's the lead on this from beginning to end. Quinn smiled, her eyes locked on mine. Is that so, Mr. Grant? I nodded. Of course. We will cooperate fully with any client requirements. Any requirements? She repeated, her tone dripping with a subtext I couldn't quite place. I didn't take the bait. She didn't push. She stood up. Fina, the preliminary pitch is approved. My team will handle the details with you. She extended her hand in a formal gesture. I look forward to working with you, Ethan. I looked at her hand. Her fingers were long and slender. I took it. Her skin was cool but soft. She held my hand for just a second before letting go. I have another meeting. I'll see myself out. She grabbed her blazer from the chair and nodded to her team. As she passed me, she slowed down for a split second. A whisper, so soft only I could hear. The perfume is gone. What a shame. As she walked out, the sound of her heels faded down the hall. The scent of rain-soaked grass and sugar seemed to linger in the air. Joel leaned in, looking like he'd survived a war. Man, that woman is intense. I was sweating bullets. But hey, she seemed to like you. She couldn't take her eyes off you. I closed my laptop. Drop it, Joel. Let's get back to the studio and fix the renderings. On the drive back, Quinn's last words echoed in my head. Was she checking to see if I'd accepted her Instagram request? Or was she just messing with me? My phone buzzed. I checked it at a red light. Another follow request. Same profile, same handle. The message this time, Ethan, it's very rude to ignore a lady's request. Especially now that we're business partners. Accept it. It'll make discussing project details much easier. It was a perfectly logical excuse. I stared at the smiley face for a few seconds, then hit accept. Almost instantly, a message popped up. Smiley face, you looked very handsome today. I didn't reply. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. The light turned green. I looked ahead, feeling a sudden wave of annoyance. A contract marriage, a cold wife, and now an old flame with an agenda acting as my client. What a disaster. The phone buzzed again. Dinner tonight? To talk about the project. I typed back. Sorry, I have plans. With Serena? I didn't answer. The secret How about tomorrow then? Me. Busy tomorrow too. Ethan, it feels like you're avoiding me. Me. You're overthinking it, Ms. Thorne. I'm just busy with work. Is that so? Because I have project-related matters that we must discuss in person. As the lead designer, surely you shouldn't be so dismissive of your client? She sent a photo. It was a shot of the conference room projection, captured at the moment I was explaining the floor plans. I have questions about this specific phase. Hard to explain over the phone. I looked at the candid photo and frowned. Or should I have my office send a formal request for the lead designer to give a private briefing in my office tomorrow morning? I took a deep breath. Let's just grab a bite. Just work talk. I want to eat you, Ethan. The last message was followed by a cute emoji of a cat tilting its head. It was a jarring contrast to her usual predatory vibe. I knew I couldn't dodge her forever. This woman was determined to get me alone. I typed, time and place. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll send the address. Don't tell Serena. Let's keep this a work secret, smiley face. Then came a location pin. It was a high-end, private Italian bistro tucked away in a quiet, historic neighborhood. It was the kind of place that was notoriously difficult to book. I replied with a K. Quinn didn't send anything else. I gripped the wheel, my annoyance shifting into a faint sense of caution. I didn't tell Serena I was having dinner with Quinn. Not because I cared about Quinn's work secret, but because I felt it was unnecessary. Serena and I weren't at the stage where we reported our every move. Saying something would only make it weird. The next night, I found the bistro. It was an unassuming brick building. Inside, it opened into a beautiful Mediterranean courtyard with flickering candlelight and climbing ivy. A server led me to a private booth. Quinn was already there. She wasn't wearing red today. She wore a forest green velvet dress that made her skin look luminous. Her hair was gathered in a loose, effortless bun with a few stray curls framing her face. The sharp, corporate edge was gone, replaced by a soft, languid elegance. Punctual. I like that, she said with a smile, gesturing for me to sit. I've already ordered a few house specialties. See if you want to add anything. She pushed the menu over. I glanced at it. She'd ordered more than enough. This is fine. Would you like some wine? She picked up a crystal decanter. Their private reserve is excellent. I'm driving. Get an Uber. Or, she looked up, her eyes dancing. I could drive you. I'm good, thanks. She didn't push. She poured herself a small glass of the pale gold wine. The food arrived. As I expected, she barely touched on the project. The questions she had were settled in 2 minutes. The rest of the time was spent in casual conversation. She talked about her time in Europe, about art, about trivial things. She was a brilliant conversationalist, well-read and funny. If it weren't for the way she constantly studied me, it might have been an enjoyable dinner. So, how did you and Serena meet? She asked suddenly, swirling the wine in her glass. Here it was. I knew this was coming. Introduced by family, I said shortly. A blind date. She nodded. How long were you together before the wedding? 3 months. A vue de vin homancy. She seemed surprised, then laughed. Serena doesn't seem like the type to rush into anything. People change, I said. Do they? She set her glass down and leaned forward. I don't think she has. When she has someone in her heart, she doesn't see anyone else. That part of her has never changed. The booth was quiet. What are you trying to say, Ms. Thorne? I met her gaze. Nothing. She leaned back, her smile fading slightly. I just think it's a shame. A man of your talent, trapped in a marriage that's just a performance. I set my fork down. Ms. Thorne, that is a private matter between me and my wife. Wife. She repeated the word and then laughed out loud, as if I'd told a hilarious joke. Ethan, you can lie to the world, but don't lie to yourself. She picked up the decanter and poured another glass, but didn't drink it. In the bottom left drawer of her desk, there's a locked sandalwood box. Do you know what's inside? My heart skipped a beat. How did she know about that box? I see you do. Quinn watched my face, her smile deepening. I gave her that box the year we graduated. There's a Swiss Army knife inside. I have a matching one, though. I lost mine a while ago. Her voice softened, becoming almost nostalgic. She told me she would keep hers forever. Ethan, do you think she still has it? I didn't say anything. My palms were a bit damp. I'd seen that box. After Serena blew up at me for touching the photo of her and Q, she'd locked all her mementos in that expensive-looking box. She kept the key on her at all times. I hadn't even known there was a knife inside. See? You know nothing. Quinn's voice pulled me back. She drained her glass, her eyes bright and sharp. You've been married 3 years, and you sleep in separate rooms, don't you? I looked up. You don't smell like her, Quinn whispered, leaning in as if to catch my scent. Not all. Instead, she paused, grinning. You only smell like me. I caught my breath. You're just playing house for the cameras, aren't you? She pressed. To keep the family off her back? A contract marriage? Mutual benefit. I clenched my hand under the table. Ms. Thorne, I said, keeping my voice level. You're overstepping. Overstepping. She laughed softly. Ethan, between you and Serena, there was never a line to step over. She stood up, wine glass in hand, and walked around the table to my side. That scent of rain and sugar enveloped me again. She leaned down, resting her arms on the back of my chair, effectively boxing me in. We were so close I could see every individual eyelash and the fine texture of her lipstick. I'm the one in her heart. I am, and I always will be. Her voice was a low murmur, the warmth of the wine on her breath brushing my ear. And you, Ethan? Her gaze traveled from my eyes to my lips, my throat, and finally my collarbone. It felt like a physical touch. You're just a beautiful ornament she's holding onto for now. And now, the owner is back to claim her property. She reached out her finger, as if she were going to touch my face like she had at the restaurant. But she stopped an inch from my skin. She smiled and straightened up. Actually, that's wrong. She tilted her head, her expression a mix of innocence and cruelty. I'm not just taking my property back. I'm taking the ornament with me, too. The room was deathly quiet. I could hear my own uneven heartbeat. I looked at her. She looked back. The tension in the air was palpable. After a few seconds, I smirked and stood up. Done. Quinn arched an eyebrow. First, I said, my relationship with Serena is not for an outsider to judge. Second, I'm not an ornament, and I am not for the taking. Third, I took a step forward, closing the gap. She clearly hadn't expected me to move in. Her eyelashes fluttered. Ms. Thorne, your perfume is a bit much. It's giving me a headache. The smile finally faltered on her face. The playful amusement in her eyes was replaced by surprise and a deeper, more intense curiosity. Also, I stepped back, creating a safe distance. Regarding the project, please use the official channels through my project manager. Private meetings are unnecessary and lead to misunderstandings. I grabbed my jacket from the chair. Thanks for dinner. I've already settled the check. Good night. I didn't wait for her response. I turned and walked out. It wasn't until I hit the cool night air that I realized my back was covered in a thin layer of sweat. I got in my car, but didn't start it immediately. My mind was a mess. I leaned back and closed my eyes. My phone buzzed. Ethan Grant, you're even more interesting than I thought. I'm starting to really like you. Let's take our time with this. I didn't reply. I locked the phone and threw it aside. That afternoon, I was at the studio working on renderings when Joel sidled up to me, looking mysterious. Ethan, can I ask you something? Go ahead. That gorgeous client, Ms. Thorne, does she have a thing for you? The Golemy hand slipped, sending the mouse cursor flying across the screen. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not being ridiculous, Joel whispered. During that meeting, she was practically staring a hole through you. And hey, I went to their corporate office to drop off some files yesterday. I heard the gossip. Apparently, Quinn Thorne is Serena Vance's childhood best friend. She just got back from Europe and was fast-tracked into this director role. Vance Enterprises, Serena's company. The vague unease I'd been feeling intensified. So, Ethan, she's your wife's best friend. And she's stunning. The way she looks at you is electric. You're telling me you don't feel anything? You and Serena have always been so cold to each other. This is a hell of an opportunity. Joel, I cut him off, my voice cold. Do your job and stop gossiping. Joel saw my expression and shrunk back. Just saying, going back to work. He scurried back to his desk. I stared at the lines on my screen, unable to focus. Quinn was Serena's, one who got away. I knew that from the photo, but her taking over this project was a coincidence or a move. My phone rang. It was Serena. I was surprised. She rarely called me during work hours. I picked up. Her voice was cool as ever, but tighter than usual. I need you to accompany me to a gala tonight. Time and place. 7 o'clock. I'll send the address. With that charcoal gray suit. She spoke quickly, then added, Quinn Thorne will be there. I understood the tension in her voice immediately. I'll be there. The address was for a ballroom in a 5-star hotel downtown. I didn't feel much. Whatever was coming was coming. At 6:30 p.m., I waited for Serena outside her office building. She came down wearing a champagne-colored silk gown with a matching blazer over her shoulders. Her hair was up, elegant and sharp, but she couldn't hide the fatigue in her eyes. She got into the passenger seat, bringing a scent of cool, crisp citrus, different from her usual perfume, more mature and distant. Quinn will be there too, I asked, starting the car. Yes, she looked out the window. She's the representative for Vance's new partner. We can't avoid her at events like this. She didn't say anything else, and I drove in silence. The ballroom was already filled with the elite, a sea of tuxedos and evening gowns. Serena took my arm, her face transforming into a perfect social mask. She whispered, stay close. Don't say anything stupid. I nodded. As soon as we walked in, we drew eyes. Serena was the ice queen of the local business world. Young, powerful, and successful. Me, her rarely seen husband, was a natural point of curiosity. She led me through the crowd, expertly navigating small talk and introductions. I played my part, the supportive, silent, charming husband. We ran into Quinn near the dessert table. She was surrounded by a small crowd, wearing a fire engine red mermaid gown that was nothing short of breathtaking. She was laughing with a middle-aged man, looking radiant. She seemed to sense us. She turned, her eyes finding us with predatory precision. Her smile widened. She said a few words to the people around her and walked over. The sound of her heels on the marble floor was steady and rhythmic, like a countdown. Serena's grip on my arm tightened. Serena. Ethan, Quinn said, stopping in front of us. Her eyes flicked to Serena's hand on my arm, her smile never wavering. What a coincidence. Ms. Thorne, Serena said coolly. Ms. Thorne, I nodded. Call me Quinn. We're far too close for formalities. Quinn chuckled, her eyes on me. Ethan, you look very handsome tonight. Thank you, I replied politely. People around us were beginning to whisper and watch. Serena and Quinn, two very different but equally striking women, plus a husband with a mysterious background. It was a scene straight out of soap opera. I heard you've taken over such a massive project. Right after returning, Quinn. Impressive, a nearby executive said, trying to flatter her. I'm just here to learn, Quinn replied smoothly, though her gaze kept drifting back to me. You and Serena are such good friends. It's wonderful to see, another woman added. Are you planning to stay in the city long term? Depends. Quinn swirled her champagne glass, her meaning clear. If there's someone or something worth staying for, I might just settle down. Her eyes landed on me again. This time, she didn't hide the intent. I could feel Serena's body stiffening. Excuse me, Serena said suddenly, her voice low. I need to use the restroom. She let go of my arm and walked away toward the corridor. Her back was straight, but her pace was a little too fast. Quinn watched her go, her smile fading slightly as she turned to me. Aren't you going to check on her, Ethan? Serena looks unwell. If she needs me, she'll call, I said. Quinn stepped closer. Amidst the noise of the crowd and the music, we were close enough to be considered intimate by social standards. Her scent, that rain and sugar mixed with champagne, hit me full force. See, she whispered. When things get tough, her first instinct is to run. She's always been like that. Looks cold on the outside, but she's terrified on the inside. When she can't handle something, she just hides, like a little turtle retreating into its shell. Her tone was familiar, almost affectionate, but to me it sounded grating. You seem to know her very well, I said. Of course, Quinn laughed, though there was no warmth in it. We've known each other for 20 years. I know what she's sensitive about, what she fears, what she loves, what she hates. I know her better than she knows herself. She paused, looking into my eyes, including who is in her heart, what kind of feelings she has, and all the secrets she's too afraid to say out loud. My heart sank, and so Ethan Grant, her voice dropped even lower, becoming almost hypnotic. Don't take yourself too seriously. You're just a placeholder she needs, a shield. Now that I'm back, you're obsolete. Why not find yourself a graceful exit while you still can? I looked at the beautiful woman in front of me. Every word she said was designed to hit a nerve. She knew about the contract. She knew we were a sham. She knew Serena's heart belonged to someone else. She had all the cards, and she was playing them. I suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion. I was tired of being a pawn in this high-stakes game. Ms. Thorne, I smirked. Has anyone ever told you that being too smart can be a disadvantage? Quinn arched an eyebrow. Also, I stepped back, creating distance. I don't need you to worry about my exit strategy. I didn't wait for her to respond. I turned and followed the direction Serena had gone. Past the crowd, in a quiet corner of the hallway, I found her. She wasn't in the restroom. She was leaning against the cold wall, head tilted back, staring up at the crystal chandelier. In the dim light, she looked pale and fragile. At the sound of footsteps, she turned. When she saw it was me, she froze, then quickly looked away, wiping the corner of her eye. I stopped in my tracks. Was she crying? I'd never seen Serena Vance cry. In my mind, she was always the CEO, rational, powerful, and unbreakable. But now, standing in a dark corner in her designer gown, she looked defeated. I stood there, unsure whether to approach or leave. She seemed to gather herself. She turned back, her face regaining its icy composure, though the edges of her eyes were still red. What are you doing here? Her voice was raspy. You were gone a long time, I said. I'm Fine. She straightened up and took a breath. Let's go back. She walked past me, a cool breeze in her wake. I watched her retreat, hesitated for a moment, and followed. Back in the ballroom, Quinn was still in the same spot, laughing with an international business contact. When she saw us return, she raised her glass to me with a knowing, triumphant smile. Serena ignored her and walked to the other side of the room. We didn't speak to Quinn for the rest of the night. The crack as the gala wound down, Serena seemed to have had one too many drinks. Her gait was unsteady. I caught her by the waist and nodded to the people around us. Excuse me, my wife isn't feeling well. We're heading out early. She leaned into me, her body soft and warm. Her breath, tinged with alcohol, brushed against my neck. Keys are in my clutch, she mumbled. I guided her out of the hotel and to her car. I tucked her into the passenger seat and buckled her in. She kept her eyes closed, her brow furrowed in discomfort. I got into the driver's seat and started the engine. It was late. The streets were empty. The only sound was the low hum of the car and Serena's uneven breathing. After a few minutes, she spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. Ethan. Yeah. I'm sorry. I blinked and looked over at her. She was still leaning against the window, her face flickering in and out of the streetlights. For what? For dragging you into this, she said, sounding like she was talking in her sleep. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I just gripped the steering wheel tighter. Her voice faded into silence. I realized she'd fallen asleep. There was a faint glisten of a tear at the corner of her eye. My chest felt tight, not painful, just a heavy, dull ache. I turned up the heater slightly and drove as smoothly as I could toward the house. When we arrived, I went around to the passenger side to wake her. She woke up on her own, looking disoriented. She looked at me, then at the house. We're home. Yeah. She unbuckled her belt and stepped out, her movements clumsy. I followed her to the front door. She fumbled with her clutch, her hands shaking, failing to find the keyhole. I sighed, took the keys from her, and unlocked the door. She walked in, kicked off her heels, and stumbled. I caught her by the waist. Her waist was small. Through the thin silk of her dress, I could feel the heat of her skin. She stiffened but didn't pull away. We stood there in the dim light of the entryway. The air felt thick. The scent of her, citrus and wine, and the memory of her vulnerability in the car were doing something to my nerves. My heart was racing. Serena, I whispered. She slowly looked up at me. Her eyes were glassy, stripped of their usual coldness. She looked lost, almost as if she were searching for something to hold on to. Her lips were slightly parted, and her breath was warm on my chin. We were so close I could count her lashes. If I just leaned down an inch, I could kiss her. The thought hit me with the force of a train. My throat went dry. My grip on her waist tightened. Her body gave a tiny shiver. Time seemed to stretch. Just as I was about to give in to instinct and lean down, she suddenly turned her face away and pushed me back. "I'm okay now," she said, her voice shaking with obvious panic. "Thanks." She practically bolted for the stairs, her footsteps echoing as she disappeared onto the second floor. I stood in the entryway, my own breath coming in ragged bursts. I loosened my tie, exhaling a long, shaky breath. The air still carried the scent of her perfume. I pressed my palm to my forehead. What was I thinking? Was it the alcohol in the air? Or? I shook my head, clearing the thoughts, and went to my room. A cold shower didn't help as much as I hoped. I lay in bed, wide awake. My mind kept looping through Quinn's triumphant look, Serena's tears, and those few seconds in the entryway. My phone screen lit up. T. Get her home safe? Smiley face T. Taking care of a drunk is exhausting, isn't it? T. Especially when she's a drunk who loves someone else. I felt a surge of irritation. I typed back, Ms. Thorne, shouldn't you be asleep? T. I was thinking about you. T. Thinking about whether you're regretting marrying a woman who doesn't love you. My thumb hovered over the screen. T. Or maybe you're thinking about what would have happened if you'd kissed her in the entryway just now. My pupils contracted. How did she know? T. Don't be tense. I'm just guessing. T. After all, the way you were looking at her wasn't exactly professional. T. Too bad she pushed you away, right? I didn't reply. T. Ethan Grant admitted. T. You're falling for your contract wife. The messages stopped there. The screen went dark. I stared at the ceiling, Quinn's words echoing in my ears. Falling for her? Are you kidding me? I locked my phone and forced myself to close my eyes. The next morning, I was nursing a headache when there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Quinn. She was dressed simply, white sweater and jeans, hair in a ponytail. The aggressive glamour was gone, replaced by something almost fresh, but the look in her eyes hadn't changed. "Morning, Ethan," she smiled, waving a bag of takeout. "I brought breakfast. There's a place down the street that does the best breakfast sandwiches and artisan coffee. I waited 20 minutes for these." I blocked the doorway. "Serena is upstairs." "I know." She brushed past me with practiced ease and headed for the dining room. She started laying out the food like she lived there. "I brought it for both of you. Is Serena still in bed?" "I don't know." She didn't care. She opened the containers, the smell of bacon and fresh coffee filling the room. I watched her, a slow burn of anger rising in my chest. "Quinn Thorne," I said, walking up to her. "What the hell are you playing at?" She looked up, that perfect smile still in place. "Bringing breakfast. Don't play dumb." I stared her down. "The things you said at the gala. Now showing up at my house. What are you trying to prove? That you know her better than I do? That I'm irrelevant?" Her smile faded. She looked at me silently. "Yes," I said, my voice raspy from lack of sleep and frustration. "We have a contract. It's a business deal. We sleep in separate rooms. We don't have a history. So what? What does that have to do with you? Who do you think you are, coming in here and judging our lives like you're some kind of moral authority?" The room went silent. Quinn set the coffee cup down and stood up. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes were searching mine. Finally, a look of relief crossed her face. "Done?" she asked. I didn't say anything. She sighed, shook her head, and sat on the sofa. She patted the spot next to her. "Come here. Let's talk." I didn't move. "Ethan," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "If I really wanted to take him back, or take you, do you really think you'd still be standing here talking to me like this?" I frowned. I'll admit, when I first got back, I was pissed. Pissed that she just married some guy to solve a problem. Pissed that she was. She stopped. "Anyway," she looked back at me. "But this week I changed my mind." "Why?" "Because of the way you look at her." She gave a wry laugh. "The way you stood up for her at the restaurant. The way you were worried about her at the gala. And last night. The way you look at her isn't professional, Ethan." My heart gave a heavy thud. "And her," Quinn continued. "I know her better than anyone. If she didn't feel anything for you, she'd never let you get that close. She certainly wouldn't lean on you when she's vulnerable. You two are both full of it." My throat felt tight. "What's your point?" Quinn stood up and walked over to me. This time, she didn't try to be provocative. She just looked at me with a mix of pity and encouragement. "My point is, Ethan, don't be a coward. If you love her, tell her. Whatever you think is in her heart. You shouldn't be guessing, and you definitely shouldn't be listening to my bitter jokes to decide your future. The reveal, ask her. Confirm it. Take those feelings you're hiding and put them on the table. She raised a hand as if to pat my shoulder, but stopped, instead pointing toward the stairs. She doesn't have a one who got away. She's been a shy little thing her whole life. But some people are so stubborn and so scared of their own pride that they'd rather push away the person they love than admit it. Isn't that right, Serena? Quinn raised her voice, directing the last sentence toward the staircase. I froze and spun around. Serena was standing on the landing. She was in her robe, her hair a bit messy, her face pale. She was staring at us. Or rather, she was staring at me. How much had she heard? Quinn grabbed her bag, walked to the door, and winked at me. She mouthed 2 words, "Good luck," and she pulled the door shut. Thud. The house was silent. Just me and Serena. I looked up at her. She looked down at me. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, framing her in a soft glow. I tried to speak, but my throat was a desert. All the thoughts from a night, everything Quinn had just exposed, was crashing around in my head. I started. Serena moved. She walked down the stairs, step by step. Her bare feet made no sound on the wood. She stopped right in front of me. She looked up. Her eyes were still a bit red, but they were clear. The ice was gone. The distance was gone. There was only a fragile, desperate kind of hope. Ethan, she whispered. Yeah. Quinn. She bit her lip, a gesture so uncharacteristically vulnerable it made my chest ache. She's my sister. My older sister. Well, cousin, but we were raised as sisters. She's 2 months older than me. I blinked. What? We grew up together. That photo. She insisted on taking it before she moved to London. She said she didn't want me to forget her. Serena was talking fast now, a mix of confession and explanation. The Swiss Army knife, too. She bought a pair. Mina. I lost it years ago. Her face began to turn a deep crimson. I don't have an old flame. That was all a story she made up to mess with you. I've never even been in a relationship before I met you. The only thing I've been holding on to, she took a shaky breath, is our marriage contract. And the name on it, Ethan Grant. My heart stopped. Then it started again, racing so fast I felt dizzy. It felt like fireworks were going off in my brain. I looked at her, really looked at her trembling lashes and her bitten lip. So, I said, my voice sounding like gravel. The locked box in your office. What's really in it? Her face went even redder. She looked away, whispering, our wedding photos. I was stunned. And her voice dropped to a near-silent murmur. That old fountain pen you left in the living room. The one you lost. I remembered. It was the pen I'd used the day we signed our marriage license. I looked everywhere for it and assumed it was gone. I reached out and lightly touched her cheek. It was cool. She didn't pull away. Her eyelashes just fluttered. Serena, I whispered, leaning down until our foreheads touched. Yes. The contract has a year left. I looked into her eyes, seeing my own reflection there. Do you want her new? She blinked, processing the words. Then, a faint but genuine smile, the first real one I'd ever seen, spread across her face. It was like the first day of spring. Yes, she whispered. How long is the new term? I asked, smiling back. Her eyes crinkled at the corners. That's up to you. I leaned down and finally kissed the lips I've been wanting to kiss for years. They were soft. Story complete epilogue. The sisters' prank coming out of the courthouse after the real wedding. Serena couldn't stop looking at the marriage certificate. The sun was bright, making her cheeks flush. I held her hand. It was a little damp, and I couldn't tell if it was her sweat or mine. Watch where you're going, I said, pulling her back before she tripped over a curb. She looked up, her eyes sparkling. She was trying to hide a smile and failing miserably. She looked adorable. Ethan. Yeah. It's real now. She carefully tucked the certificate into her bag, checking the zipper twice. Yeah, real. I squeezed her hand. She squeezed back hard. As we headed for the car, her phone rang. Serena looked at the screen and sighed. Yeah, we just left. I know you talk too much. Shut up. She hung up, her ears turning pink. Quinn, I asked. Yeah. She put the phone away. She says we have to celebrate. She booked a table. I arched an eyebrow. Is it a trap? Serena laughed, shaking her head. She wouldn't dare. I gave her a piece of my mind yesterday. What did you tell her? I told her. Serena looked at me, her eyes softening, that she needs to get a life and stop playing matchmaker with people's hearts. I laughed. Quinn had booked a private room at a high-end Korean barbecue spot. When we arrived, she was already there, firing off orders to the server. 2 orders of brisket, the prime ribeye, and 3 of the wagyu to start. She looked up, her eyes landing on our joined hands. Her smile grew wide. Well, look at the newlyweds. Congratulations. See. She was wearing a wine-red silk shirt that made her skin look like porcelain. She looked as glamorous and dangerous as ever. As the food arrived, Quinn was a whirlwind of energy, grilling meat, serving Serena's favorite side dishes, and chatting nonstop. "Serena, try the short rib. It's perfect. Ethan, don't be shy. Eat up." In the heat of the grill and the steam, she seemed genuinely happy. The aggressive predator from a few weeks ago felt like a fever dream. Halfway through the meal, Serena's phone rang. An emergency at the office. She apologized, stepped out to take the call, and left me alone with Quinn. The grill sizzled. Quinn slowly flipped a piece of meat, dipped it in sauce, and ate it with the grace of someone at a formal gala. She wiped her mouth, then looked at me. "Take care of her," she said, her voice losing its playful edge. "She looks tough, but she's soft-hearted. And she's stubborn as hell. She keeps everything bottled up." I set my chopsticks down. "I know. You don't know the half of it," she smirked, though without malice. "I've dealt with her for 20 years. Now it's your turn. Good luck, Ethan." I chuckled. "Thanks for the warning." She swirled her drink, her eyes tracing my face. That playful, teasing glint returned to her eyes. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "But hey, just so you know, if she ever treats you wrong, or if things get boring," she winked, her lips curling into a seductive arc, "you can always come find your big sister. I'll take much better care of you." She spoke with a half-serious, half-joking tone, her eyes sparkling with mischief. That scent of rain and sugar drifted across the table. I didn't move. After a second, I leaned in too, keeping my voice low. "Quinn." "Yes." She arched an eyebrow. "Don't make those jokes anymore," I said firmly. Her smile faltered slightly. "It makes Serena upset," I added, sitting back and taking a sip of my drink. "And besides." "Besides what?" I looked past her. Quinn followed my gaze and turned around. Serena had finished her call and was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, staring at us. Her expression was frosty. "Quinn." She cleared her throat, sat bolt upright, and flashed an incredibly innocent smile. "Serena, you're back. Seat. I saved the wagyu for you." Serena didn't move. She kept her eyes on Quinn. Quinn blinked, her voice turning even more sincere. "I was just giving Ethan some advice. Telling him how to take care of you. Nothing else. I swear." "Oh." Serena sat down next to me. She picked up her chopsticks and slowly took a piece of lettuce. "What kind of advice?" "I'd love to hear it." "Quinn, just, be attentive, be gentle, do whatever you say." "Is that right?" Serena turned to me. I nodded, keeping a straight face. "Yeah, I told her I'm going to do whatever my wife says." A tiny smile touched Serena's lips. She looked back at Quinn. Quinn exhaled a sigh of relief and went to take a sip of her juice. "So," Serena said casually, "the part about come find your big sister if things get boring. Was that part of the advice too?" Puffed. Quinn nearly sprayed her drink, coughing as she turned red. She glared at me, her eyes screaming. "You sold me out?" I shrugged and handed her a napkin. Serena picked up a piece of overcooked, leathery beef and dropped it into Quinn's bowl. "Sister," she said with a sugary sweet smile, "eat up. Stop talking. And eat." Quinn looked at the tough piece of meat, then at Serena's kind smile, then at my not my problem expression. Finally, she sighed in defeat and started chewing the leathery beef. Between bites, she mouthed at me, "Ethan, Grant, you are dead." I raised my glass to her and took a drink. The sun was shining outside. The grill was hot. Across from me was my ridiculous sister-in-law, and next to me was my wife, the woman who looked like ice but was currently holding my hand under the table. Her fingers were cool, but her palm was warm. I squeezed back, interlacing our fingers. Quinn looked up from her struggle with the beef, saw our hands, and saw the blush on Serena's ears. She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Get a room," she muttered. Serena gave her a playful kick under the table. Ow! The heat of the grill and the sound of laughter rose together. It was a perfect afternoon.